Hello kings and queens, welcome back to my channel. I'm Rachel from Intentional Adulting. I make videos about an array of things, to be honest. Anything that can come under the umbrella of adulting and growing up. I just basically share my life lessons with you. And most recently I have been sharing my whole house buying process and the stress and woes that entailed. Today I feel emotionally stable enough to dive into that and share with you another reason why the whole house buying process was so stressful. You wouldn't be surprised to hear that it was because of solicitors. Everyone says that solicitors are just like so painful to work with and they just make the whole house buying process so stressful, and that definitely applied to our house buying process. So my partner and I, my now husband and I, we bought our house in March of this year, of 2021. And we thought we had bagged ourselves a good solicitor actually, because we found our solicitor on recommendation. So actually a family member recommended the solicitor that we ended up going with to us. And we thought that, oh, because, you know, someone is recommending them to us, they are bound to be good, like we'll have an amazing experience with them. But if only we knew, our solicitor was the absolute worst to work with. And actually, our particular solicitor who works at that firm, my husband and I, we treat her name like Voldemort, like, you know, thou who should not be named. We do not mention her name in this house because just her name just causes us so much stress and hypertension. We cannot do it to ourselves, so we don't even mention her name under this roof. And it's just really, it's quite unfortunate, to be honest, because the firm has really good ratings on Google. A family member had recommended them to us because they had heard nothing but good things about this firm. They're a firm of conveyancers, so there is a legal difference between solicitors and conveyancers. I'm not going to pretend like I know what the difference is off the top of my head, so I'll probably just leave the description of it in the description box. We did use conveyancers, to which our estate agents actually did say, oh, well, that's your fault for choosing conveyancers. Like, if you chose solicitors, this wouldn't be happening. So apparently there is a big difference between property lawyers or conveyancers and, there is a big difference between property lawyers, i.e. solicitors, and just the mere conveyancer, apparently. Our estate agent was suggesting that we would get a better, more in-depth professional service if we had gone with solicitors. We didn't know the difference at the time. We still don't know the difference. Who knows? But perhaps it's something for you to consider if you are buying a house and you need to instruct a solicitor. But yeah, going back to our experience with our solicitor, or our conveyancer, should I say, it left much to be desired. I think we just got a bad, what's the word? Like a bad barrel. I don't know if that's the term, but I think the firm itself was good because when I spoke to my conveyancers colleagues, well, let me go back to the beginning. So basically, we chose this firm of conveyancers on the recommendation of a relative. And when we first instructed them, when they first started working with us on our house purchase, the particular conveyancer that was allocated to us, she was very, I don't even know what the word is, but she was just on the ball. She was on the ball. She was very responsive is the word that I'm thinking about. You know, she would ask me for documents. I would send them to her more or less immediately. She would acknowledge receipt. Like, you know, if I had questions towards the beginning of the house purchase process, she always answered in a timely manner. She was very responsive. She was very easy to get hold of. There were no issues at all in the beginning. Things went downhill when I guess there was the first delay in our house buying journey. I think, what was the reason for that delay? Our seller hadn't they hadn't managed to find or secure the house that they were planning on buying. So yeah, something happened to the house that our seller was planning to buy, so they had to start from scratch and look for a new house. I think that's no, that wasn't even what it was. What happened was that, unbeknown to us, so we didn't even know this was happening, but our seller hadn't even found a house that they could put an offer on, that they could start the whole legal process towards. Because we found our house in September of 2020, I believe it was, and it came to like November, December, and we found out that our seller hadn't even found a house to put an offer on. As soon as I told my conveyancer that news, it was like she just decided to ghost us. We couldn't get hold of her. It was like she just dismissed us mentally and was just like, oh, you guys are on a long thing, I'm not gonna bother with you guys. And she just kind of like disappeared into the distance. And from that moment onwards, it was so difficult to get hold of her. Like, I'd be ringing her phone, it would just ring and ring and ring. I'd leave voice messages, I'd send her emails, no response. I had to start communicating with her colleagues, so like leaving messages with the receptionist and telling them that someone must call me back, and then like her manager would call me back instead, or a colleague would call me back and say, you know, apologies for our own conveyancer not getting back to you. She's on her lunch break, or she's away from her desk, or I just don't know why she's not responding. And then I'd be communicating with her colleagues or her manager instead of her. It just became a really tedious, painful process, because she was like the main person working on our case. So she had the relationship with our estate agent, who was kind of like the middleman between ourselves and our seller. So yeah, so it was so hard, virtually impossible to get hold of her, and it ended up causing us a lot of delays as we drew towards exchanging contracts for this house. And it was just so painful, because when your estate agent is trying to get hold of your solicitor or your conveyancer because they need to finalise, final outstanding inquiries before you can all agree to exchange contracts and set dates and stuff, it really causes a lot of uncertainty about whether or not the purchase will go through in the first place. You just start worrying whether this house purchase is going to fall through. If you can't get hold of your conveyancer, neither can your estate agent get hold of them. You just start thinking the worst, like you're going to lose this house. For us, we were trying to get the sale through before the end of the stamp duty holiday as well, because that affected other people in our chain. We were trying to complete our purchase prior to our wedding as well, so that we had a house to move into. It was just really tough, and I've heard this time and time again from people that, oh, solicitors are the worst, they're absolute rubbish, they drag their heels, they work so slowly. I thought we had found ourselves a gem by finding this particular firm, but I truly believe that we just got allocated a really should I say what's the word? Negligent. Yeah, negligent. I just feel that we got allocated a really poor performer in the firm. I'm sure she's probably on some kind of performance improvement plan. I just can't see how she can be meeting expectations, delivering that kind of service to her clients. It was awful. And yeah, her negligence, should I say, her poor customer service nearly cost us this house. We had to change the exchange date at least 2 times, I believe, like delay it because of delays that our conveyancer contributed to. There were many final inquiries that were just left open, that she didn't inform us that she was still waiting for answers from our solicitor. She didn't inform us that those were still pending until like the very last step in the process. She just didn't keep us informed with things, despite us asking for updates and asking for details. We had to bypass her and get the information that we needed eventually from her manager. It was awful. It was absolutely awful. She caused us so much stress during this house buying process. And because of that, I feel stung. I really feel like I don't want to go through another house buying process again, because solicitors, conveyancers, they just make the process so painful, unnecessarily painful, I feel. And yeah, I just feel that unfortunately we found someone who was quite incompetent. It was only by the grace of God that we managed to get the sale through on, I think, the 3rd attempt of agreeing exchange and completion dates with everyone in the chain. It was just awful. And she was also quite dismissive to us on the phone towards the end of the process. So whenever I was able to get hold of her via phone, she would be you could tell that she just wanted to get off the phone as quickly as possible. She'd give very short, abrupt answers without going into the detail that we needed to understand the complexities of conveyancing, basically, of house buying. Very dismissive. Yeah, very, very dismissive. And it actually got to the stage where, because I was the main communicator with her, because I work from home, my husband works on site. He cannot be making numerous calls to estate agents and solicitors, stroke conveyancers at any time of the day. Like, he needs to focus on his work. Whereas I work from home, so I'm able just to pick up my phone and call people if I need to. So I was the main communicator with her in the beginning, but towards the end, where we were like repeatedly not being able to agree exchange dates, our estate agent was like, "But what on earth is happening here? Like, the sellers want to complete, like, you're causing delays now." It was awful. It ended up requiring my husband to get on the phone to her and be like, "Look, I've had enough. We need this information from you as soon as possible. I want to escalate this to your manager," etc. She only became responsive and, I guess, serious when my husband got involved and started talking to her on the phone, which I feel, I'm not even going to comment on that. I don't know what to say. I really do hope that my experience was quite a personal, and not a personal, but an individual experience, and hopefully that's not common in the whole conveyancing world. But in all, yeah, the solicitor, conveyancer, it was a very stressful experience, and awful. And I left them very honest reviews. I think I left them 1 or 2 stars. Yeah, we've been stung. We have been stung. So, yeah, house buying can definitely be stressful if you don't have a competent solicitor or a conveyancer that actually cares about your purchase. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was COVID. Maybe everyone was overstretched, overworked. Perhaps her family members were ill and work became a burden during that time. I do not know. But even if that stuff was happening in her personal life, we all are supposed to kind of like, just differentiate between work and personal life. I can't even justify for her. It was an awful experience, and it caused me so much stress. Yes. So what can I say to make this video helpful for you if you are a first-time buyer like we were, and you're preparing for your house purchase and you want to get some tips out of this? I would say to try and find a solicitor on recommendation, because just don't go with the estate agent solicitor that they recommend. They're going to be working for the estate agent. They're not going to have your interests at heart. So don't go with the estate agent's recommendation. That's like a very well-known tip. Find your own one. Try and go with someone that a family member or relative, for a close friend recommends you to use. Perhaps they've bought their own properties in the past and they've had good experiences, and therefore they're recommending that conveyancer to you for that reason. Try and look at Google reviews as well. It's just good to get some additional reviews if possible. If you're not too far along in your purchase journey, and you start to notice that your conveyancer is not being responsive, not answering calls, not responding to emails, making mistakes, etc., if you can, just call it a day and instruct a new person. You don't actually pay them. I think we had to pay a deposit at the very beginning, but you don't actually pay the solicitor until everything has gone through, like the whole house purchase and stuff. I'm pretty sure if you do pull out midway and decide to use a different conveyancer, you will have to pay potentially a percentage of the full amount, I'm sure, because you're paying them for their time and expertise. So if you do just decide to say, look, I've had enough, I'm going to go with a different solicitor, I'm pretty sure you would have to pay some kind of fee, etc. But sometimes just weigh up your options. Our experience was so painful. I don't want to go through it again. So let me see if there's anything else I wanted to mention on this video that can be of help to you. Yeah, also she had not much knowledge about the whole lifetime ISA process, which was, I don't necessarily blame her for that. I was aware that there are some conveyancers, solicitors, etc. that are not aware of how to use the Help to Buy or the lifetime ISA when that's part of how you're planning to pay for your deposit. So some of them you do need to kind of coach them and guide them about what forms are necessary. You may need to speak to your lifetime ISA provider yourself just to get clarity about what's needed and at what stage in the process, so that you don't end up causing delays. So I don't blame our conveyancer for not knowing, that when certain forms were needed and, when they expired and dates to look out for, etc. So I don't think that's her fault. I've heard that quite often. So if you are using a Help to Buy ISA or a lifetime ISA, just prep yourself that you are going to have to get yourself up to speed about all the necessary documents and when they're needed, and potentially you'll need to speak to your lifetime ISA provider yourself just to make sure you've covered all bases. But yeah, I would just say, I think there's not much we can actually do to prevent this from happening. A lot of the power is in the conveyancer's hands, unfortunately, but definitely try and find a firm on recommendation. Don't just go with the estate agent's suggestion or on one person's opinion. Try and look on Google, speak to a few family members, speak to a few people, etc. And hopefully you will find someone who will give you a good service. So yeah, that is what I wanted to share with you in today's video. Just thinking back to the whole house buying process just makes my body go into a state of stress and trauma. So yeah, let me know if this video was helpful, and also what you would like to see from me next as well. What kind of videos you'd like me to upload on this channel, house related, adulting related, etc. Subscribe if you haven't already, and like this video if you enjoyed it or found it helpful. And yeah, I will definitely speak to you soon, so take care.